We are a peculiar people. We may not do as other parties, because we are not like the others. We are, and this cannot be too often repeated, separated from all other parties by an insurmountable barrier, a barrier that any individual can easily surmount. But once on the other side of it, and he is no social democrat. We are different from the others. We are other than the others. What for the others are necessities and conditions of life are death to us. What is it that has made of us in Germany the pivotal party, which according to the significant testimony of Cabrivi and the teaching of daily experience makes us the axle around which governmental politics turns? Most assuredly, not our representatives in the Reichstag. We might have 3 times as many representatives, and the Allied bourgeois parties would have nothing to fear from us. No, it is the avalanche-like increase of our supporters that gradually, with the certainty of a natural law, or more correctly, of a natural force, grows from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, and from hundreds of thousands to millions, and is daily increasing, bidding defiance to our opponents and driving them into impotent rage. And this avalanche-like increase has come, and is coming, as a consequence of our opposition to and struggle with all other parties. All who are weary and heavy laden, all who suffer under injustice, all who suffer from the outrages of the existing bourgeois society, all who have in them the feeling of the worth of humanity, look to us, turn hopefully to us, as the only party that can bring rescue and deliverance. And if we, the opponents of this unjust world of violence, suddenly reach out the hand of brotherhood to it, conclude alliances with its representatives, invite our comrades to go hand in hand with the enemy whose misdeeds have driven the masses into our camp, what confusion must result in their minds? How can the masses longer believe on us if the men of the clerical party, of the progressive party, and the other brutal parties are our comrades? Wherefore then the struggle against capitalist society, whose representatives and champions all of these are? What reason have we then for existence? It must be that for the hundreds and thousands, for the millions that have sought salvation under our banner, it was all a colossal mistake for them to come to us. If we are not different from the others, then we are not the right ones. The Savior is yet to come, and the social democracy was a false Messiah, no better than the other false ones. Just in this fact lies our strength, that we are not like the others, and that we are not only not like the others, and that we are not simply different from the others, but that we are their deadly enemy, who have sworn to storm and demolish the Bastille of capitalism, whose defenders all those others are. Therefore, we are only strong when we are alone. That is not to say that we are to individualize or to isolate ourselves. We have never lacked for company, and we never shall so long as the fight lasts. We know that the individual members and individuals of the single reactionary mass are in conflict with each other, and we have always used these conflicts for our purposes. We have used opponents against opponents, but have never allowed them to use us. We have, in the person of Bismarck, the agrarian, fought personified capitalism and militarism, and utilized all his capitalistic opponents to weaken him. Thus we have used particularism, and thus the bourgeois democracy. That was, however, no compromise, not even a momentary truce. just as little as it is a compromise or momentary truce when we in the Reichstag vote against the agrarians in favor of some measure of the Progressive Party. This exclusiveness of the German social democracy, as opposed to other parties, is especially required of us because of the historical development and political conditions of Germany. We have no revolutionary bourgeois with whom we might temporarily unite, as in France and Belgium. The inclined plane of compromises. All parties, without exception, recognize us as a political power, and exactly in proportion to our power. Even the craziest reactionary that denies us the right of existence courts our favor, and by his acts gives the lie to his words. From the fact that our assistance is sought by other parties, some of our comrades draw the strange conclusion that we should reverse the party tactics, and in place of the old policy of the class struggle against all other parties, substitute the commercial politics of log rolling, wire pulling, and compromise. Such persons forget that the power which makes our alliance sought for, even by our bitterest enemies, would have had absolutely no existence were it not for the old class struggle tactics. If Marx, Engels, and Lassalle had accepted from Bernstein and his modest or not modest fellow thinkers the tactics of compromise and dependence upon bourgeois parties, then there never would have been any social democracy. We would have been simply the tail of the Progressive Party. That we accept as a part of our tactics the utilization of the quarrels among the bourgeois parties is self-explaining, and this course has been followed ever since we have had a German social democracy. To recognize this, we do not need the counsel of the newly baked party statesmen. That we have here and there worked with the Center or the Progressive Party against a reactionary governmental party is understood by the comrades without the necessity of a special party manifesto. And in different election districts, we have obtained greater advantages by cooperation with the Center Party without fusion than through the recent alliance in Bavaria. One rule does not fit every case. We Social Democrats dare not be like the other parties, all of whom are equally guilty of the injustices of the present system and equally responsible for them. Everyone who suffers under these injustices looks to us for deliverance. Every one of us has had these victims of society, after failing to get justice from the courts, from the government, from the emperor himself, and from all the other parties, come to us as the last and the only ones that can help them. They do not know our scientific program. They do not know what capital and capitalism mean. But they have the belief, the feeling that we are a party that can help when all other parties fail. This belief is, for us, an inexhaustible source of power. It was a similar faith in despair that spread more and more in the decaying Roman Empire and slowly undermined the heathen world until it finally collapsed. We give up this inexhaustible source of power if we ally ourselves with other parties and drive suffering humanity from us by saying to it, we are not essentially different from the others. Once the boundary line of the class struggle is wiped away and we have started upon the inclined plane of compromise, there is no stopping. Then we can only go down and down until there is nothing deeper. We have had many instructive experiences of this in the Reichstag. Practical politics compelled us to make concessions to the society in which we lived. But every step on the way of concessions to present society was hard for us and was only done with reluctance. There are some who ridicule us for this, but he who fears to take a step on the inclined plane is, at all events, a more trustworthy comrade than he who pours out scorn upon the cautious one. The catchword revolution is certainly ridiculous. Ridiculous, it certainly is, and no one has expressed this more clearly than I myself, to drop the words revolution and revolutionary out of the mouth at every opportunity. It can become as mechanical a song as saying one's beads. But ridiculous as it is to boast of belonging to the party and to express one's views at every opportunity when there is no necessity for it, still, such exaggerations do not justify us in throwing away the good with the bad and declaring that to emphasize the revolutionary character of our party is, under all circumstances, ridiculous. To emphasize it is a very serious and a very necessary thing. It is serious because membership in the social democracy means a struggle, a political struggle with grievous persecutions, and a private struggle for existence, a struggle that for the majority is far more difficult and heavy than the political struggle. And it is necessary because the courage for this twofold struggle is created only by the consciousness that the injustice of society, by which the great majority of mankind are today oppressed, corrupted, and crippled, can only be abolished through a revolutionary movement. That is, a movement that shall completely exterminate capitalism with every fiber of its roots. I know that it has here and there become the fashion to laugh at the warning about sliding down inclined planes. They refer us to the fable of the sheep and the wolf. The comparison limps, however, and finally turns against the laugher. The wolf was actually there, and at last broke into the fold. And in our case, it is also no imaginary danger from which we are warned. And at all events, the interests of the party are at least as carefully guarded by the warners as by the scorners. Heretofore, distrust was counted as a democratic virtue, and overconfidence as a democratic vice. Here and there are found persons who would reverse this maxim.